Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle will be back with us shortly. Joining us now is Tyler Staley from thehoosier.com here to talk with us all things Indiana basketball. Kyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. It's beautiful out. Just ready for the weekend to watch some more football. NFL starts on Sunday, so I'm pretty excited.
That's right. Obviously, the big news across basketball right now, college basketball, was, at least for the Big Ten, the release of the 2022-23 Big Ten conference slate. So what are your thoughts on that? How does it benefit IU? What are some of the advantages, disadvantages? What do you got?
Well, looking at it, I don't know if there is an advantage. I mean, that is probably, again, I don't know what the other Big Ten teams' schedules look like, but looking at Indiana's, that is an extremely tough schedule. I mean, I think their first 11 games, they rotate from away and home. And then that last 7 games, I mean, there's 6 out of 7 NCAA tournament teams. I mean, it's a brutal schedule. I think what the Big Ten said was, Indiana's got all this hype with them. We're going to put that to the test, and we're going to give you the toughest schedule possible. If they can run through that schedule and they can do well, they can have a winning record by the end of it. I mean, they've certainly earned a Big Ten championship, in my opinion.
Well, I think I saw something that like 10 out of 17 Big Ten games are on the weekend.
Yeah, it's something crazy like that.
Which is great for Indiana fans more than anything. It makes it a lot easier. But that'll make it out there. And I apologize for missing the start of that. I was getting JD straightened out in the kitchen. But no, what did I miss?
So, yeah, I just talked about how tough that schedule is. And then, like, you look at it, like the first 11 games, I believe it is, it rotates from away and home. So there's not really a, 2 home games back to back until I think February 4th when Purdue starts, or when they play Purdue for the first time. And then I think they turn around and play Rutgers on the 7th. But then after that, you've got their last 7 games, which is just a brutal finisher of a schedule. I mean, they've got 4 out of the last 7 on the road. And then the good thing is that they do end the season with back-to-back home games. But, I mean, they're going to be put to the test throughout the whole season. There really is no easy back-to-back games that I saw on there. I mean, they're really going to be put to the test if they want to win a Big Ten championship.
What's crazy to me, Tyler,
they should be. Sorry, buddy. But you have to be. If you're going to win the Big Ten, you damn well better be tested, or then the conference is down. Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, you look at the schedule, there's no easy part to the schedule. There's no place where you can really circle it, because in the early part of the schedule, you've got Xavier, you've got North Carolina, Arizona, Kansas. And then, as you mentioned, Kyler, those last 5 games, you play at home against Illinois, on the road against Michigan State, on the road against Purdue, at home against Iowa, and at home against Michigan. So there's really not any time that Indiana can take a breather. I think that what we're going to see is that how much has this team improved from last year to this year, because this is, at least on paper right now, it looks like just a brutal schedule from basically start to finish.
Well, The thing is, though, Kyler, before you answer, is not having this type of schedule last year, even though they had that great run at the end of the season, beating Illinois, beating Michigan at the Big Ten tournament, they had to do that to get in. I thought that they were in after beating Michigan for sure. No, that was not the case. They didn't get in until after they beat Illinois, and they barely got in. After beating those 2 teams and giving Iowa all they wanted. So you have to have this schedule, and not only do you have to have it, you're going to have some success. You don't have to go 3-1 or 4-0. 2-2 would be quite acceptable. I don't think you want to see a 1-4 out of it, but 1-4 out of this group would be better than not having these games on the schedule.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
I would say this is probably the toughest schedule that Indiana's had, even before the Archie Miller era, in my opinion. I guess the key right now, like right away off the bat, is you've got to protect home court. You have to. They have to win home court. And then you go down in the Big Ten schedule, you've got to sneak out some wins on the road. I mean, this team was 3-11 on the road last year, which is, an improvement from seasons before as they went on that year-long streak of losing on the road. But at the same time, I mean, they've got 3 away-only games. I think it's Penn State, Maryland, and Minnesota. Those are must-win games. You've got to win those. Those 3 teams are projected to be kind of at the level they were at last year, and Maryland might improve just a little bit. But you've gotta take care of those, and then the home games you've got to at least split them if you're traveling on the road versus the opposing team. You've got to take care of home. I mean, if this Indiana team wants to win a Big Ten championship, you've got to sneak out some road wins, and you've got to protect home. There's no question about that.
Yeah, it's another thing that caught him, that bit him in the backside last year, is not taking care of business on the road, not getting that win at Northwestern, not getting that win at Wisconsin, not getting that win at Syracuse. Those were all games that this team should have won. They have to win those games this year. You cannot lose those games, which, I mean, no one needs me to tell them that. If Indiana is going to be the team that we think that they are going to be, which is a top 3 team in the Big Ten, then that's what they're going to have to do different, that they did not do last year. You can't not do those things, because if you don't, you're going to end up squeezing in the NCAA again and getting your ass sent out to Portland on a midnight flight or a 4 a.m. flight that just the whole deal. So you got to work yourself out of that. You have to put yourself in a position to where you take it out of the NCAA's hands at the end of the year and those things.
Yeah, and honestly, if they squeeze into the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, I think it's the best of the season. This team's too talented to be in a bubble situation.
If this team does not get to the second weekend, I think it would be disappointing. But that's a long time down the road, so there's no point in getting all that stuff. But getting back to recruiting, mainly, I guess, because we've talked yesterday with Alec, Arrington Page. I know that the coaches were 4 deep at Fisher's this morning to see Jalen Harrelson, who's been getting a lot of love. Rightly so. I think he's underranked. First of all, when those rankings came out, I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy's a 6'7" badass point guard. And there was they had a 5'10" kid, which I'm sure he's skilled, but that kid or any other one like it cannot take Jalen Harrelson. Period. A Jalen Harrelson. So that's another off topic. But they're up there to see him. They're going to see Liam McNeely at Montverde, which, if that's happening, won't they still see Derek Queen if that's the case?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw. I didn't see the Liam McNeely if they were visiting. I know he's coming on a visit with Derek Queen in a few weeks or so. But this morning they were at Fisher's. They were 4 deep at Fisher's. The whole coaching staff was there, and from what I heard, is it was the Indiana was the only school that was there to see him. So they made a quick stop here before they go this weekend to see Arrington Page. They're still trying to get that one last visit in with Page. They're trying to try to close the deal with him. I mean, this is a big weekend. They are in desperate need of him. And they are in desperate need of him for 2 reasons, because he's a player that Mike Woodson covets. But if Indiana were to not land Arrington Page, that sends a hit to the recruiting, because they lost the Carr and Smith to Maryland, but it's not like they got beat badly. They got beat by somebody at home, so it's not. But the perception would then be, if you don't get Page, that would be, I think, a little cause for not concern, but not landing the big fish as they are, but they're not. It's not that they're still not to that level where back in the day, like if the kid was from Indiana, it was over if Indiana offered. They're not there. They're not there in this state yet. Yeah, and then one thing to obviously watch for that Alec touched on a little bit is, if Page is going to play with this point guard that he played with this summer, which he's a top 5 point guard, Isaiah Collier. Cincinnati's a school that's recruiting both of them. I mean, that could happen. And if, let's say, Indiana doesn't land Page, there's still options out there. There's still the potential of Derek Queen. If they could get him to reclassify, obviously that wouldn't be until about the spring. And then there would be the transfer portal. And then there could be a late bloomer in the 2023 class that they could pick up in the spring as well. It's not the end of the world if they get Page, but it'll certainly, put a dent in their plans right now.
Well, yeah, and I know that they could get around it, but it's just the perception, and then when you see that, it just you're asking yourself, well, why? Why are like I know I get with Carr and Smith, those guys are from that area, and they've got a good thing going over there, the recruiting. So, and that's a good program. But Page is one of those guys where he's a free agent, and they've been really hard on after him, and I think they kind of need to land him, or I think the recruiting takes just a little punch in the gut.
Yeah, especially, they had an amazing 22 class. Woodson did a really good job there. If Page doesn't commit right now, they just stand at Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton, which is, two great players and stuff, but they don't have that. They don't feel that front court player that Page would bring. And their pitch to Pages, he comes in, he can play his game. He can, like Woodson compared his style of play to Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, who both have free range, play their game. Page then he would get minutes right away. He paired up well with Malik Renew. Those two would play well off each other. So they've given all the pitches. They've laid it out for him and everything. Now it's just up to Page whether he wants to commit to Indiana or not.
Jalen Harrelson, we've been talking about a lot. They put a lot of energy into him. It's again early. We're talking about a kid who is going to be a sophomore in high school, which is mind-boggling. Think of that effort now that coaches have to put in. Before, back in the day, it was Justin. They were looking at it when they were junior, and there may be a letter or something, but they weren't recruiting until they were seniors. Now
right.
you got to recruit these kids when 8th and 9th grade. Recruit them, make contact, talk to, go to, visit. That's multiplied by every recruit. It's just mind-boggling the time and energy now it takes into recruiting.
Well, I think it's because you look at the development of all these recruiting websites, and every coach in the country has access to player rankings, to, short 5 to 10 minute highlight clips, and then they can get on the phone, and you want to be first in the door to try to it's all about making a good first impression, right? There's a reason that Indiana showed up 4 deep to check out Jalen Harrelson, and reportedly nobody else was there. That's going to leave an impact on his mind, whether it's immediate or sometime down the road. So I think it is a brave new world. It's even crazier on the football side, but you've got to get into these bids. And I think Indiana has done a really nice job. And I kind of agree with you, Jim. And if they don't get Arrington Page, it looks like they're going after the high level recruits, but they aren't quite able to land as many as maybe they would like. I don't think that's I agree with Kyler too. I don't think that's the end of the world. It just leaves kind of a sour taste in your mouth. But I also think that Mike Woodson and his staff have done a really good job of casting a pretty wide net. And if plan A doesn't work, they have an option, a plan B, C, and D, whether that's on the recruiting trail, whether that's getting a kid who maybe isn't quite as coveted, or whether that's, like Kyler said, you could find something in the transfer portal. So it's just interesting. But I think that Mike Woodson's doing a good job getting in there early. And then, like I said, I think he's casting a really wide net. Maybe you're not getting the type of recruits consistently that you'd like to see, but it is only year one. If they make a big splash this year and are contending for the Big Ten title and get to that second weekend of the NCAA tournament, then you're going to start to see some of these dominoes fall.